Hello, everyone, and welcome to Telegram. I'm Bo Fowler.
And I'm Stephen Long. Welcome back, guys. Today we've got a very special guest. Actually, we've got something very unusual that we're not used to. We've got two shows back to back. So as you guys are piling in, if you have a chance, if you have to bounce out and bounce back in, just know we're gonna have two different shows today back to back. Bo, is there anything that you wanted to talk about right at the top of the show here?
Yes, just like you said, Stephen, we have a fantastic show. Our first guest today is Dr. Terry LYLES. He's a psychologist. He's national and international renowned psychologist. He's actually a stress coach. We're going to have him on. And then later after that show, we're going to have on Taylor Canfield, who is a Navy SEAL and NASCAR driver. You don't want to miss that. But what we'd like for you guys to do today is stay tuned to all of our to everything that we have. We've got Q&A. We have a giveaway to give, but we also want you to jump on here and give us or tell us your stress level and what is the cause of your stress. Put that in the comments because that's very important. This gentleman is going to cover a lot of stress that people don't even know that they have every day of their lives, and he's got a great way to help you get out from underneath that stress.
Absolutely. So without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and throw Dr. LYLES on.
Yes, everybody make welcome for Dr. Terry LYLES.
Talk to survivors who come back from tragedy, and they often ask the question, why was I spared?
Bullying and safety, to me, all go together. The threat of what can happen out of school, shootings, shutdowns.
The whole issue with post-traumatic stress disorder is that there's emotional trauma. You don't ever get over something like he's gone through. You just learn to live with it and make it a part of your new reality.
My specialty is stress, so there's levels and lines to where stress becomes good and bad.
We need to step up and do more because I call this the dark secret. No one really wants to talk.
These kind of events can take place and will continue to take place without education, awareness.
There's all kinds of things that we navigate on a regular basis.
Can you imagine being in one of these nightclubs or a grocery store or a shopping mall, a movie theater, and shootings take place? Listen, you don't walk out of there like nothing happened.
He's going to have to create a new life, and it's never going to be the same.
Presence of mind that she had and the ability to know to play dead, that maybe it could preserve her life and stop this guy from hurting others. Wow.
Dr. LYLES, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, thank you. You know, I see that video all the time because we use it for presentations, but I got to tell you, in the light of what happened this week, it really just hits me in the gut, you know, of what I've been doing for a couple decades, you know, and it's just real. So I'm really glad to be on your guys' show and looking forward to answering any questions if I can help in any way. Really looking forward to the opportunity, so thank you.
Absolutely. And you know what? Actually, we're going to shift gears just a little bit. Right, that at the beginning of the show, but we're going to hold off on that for a little bit. We're actually having a little bit of an issue streaming out on Facebook. Facebook is a big part of our viewership live. So to our viewership, I know you guys are probably going to be catching up on this. It'll be a pre-recorded video that's coming out. We will have giveaways and prizes for you guys. But right now, we actually just want to focus more on the content of the show, which actually I think is actually a gift right now. So, Dr. LYLES, I see something right there in the background, right there over. It looks like your right shoulder.
Yes.
What is that in the background, and why is that important to you?
This one?
Correct.
Performance Under Pressure. Yeah, that's one of my latest books. I'm writing another one now, but this one is one of the best I've done because it just became a compilation of how do people perform under high levels of stress and pressure. And actually the forward to the book is from a good friend of mine and a 2-star retired general from the Air Force, Robert Worley, whose daughter was just brutally killed and he has now taken on her child, and basically parenting a 9-year-old grandchild. And he tells the story of how he got through military protocol, 2-star general. He's still with the VA, very actively involved. He works very closely with us on really reaching out to military veterans on post-traumatic stress. So the whole book is about how do we convert bad stress to good stress, or what I talk about in this book, threat to challenge. And I call it a threat challenge response. So I train fighter pilots, military ops, Navy SEALs, police, fire rescue, SWAT teams, all kinds of people over the years that I got dragged into. And believe me, this wasn't a business plan. I just accidentally fell into this space. And I want to say this, and you guys don't probably know this, but I have an adult son who's 37 years old who's special needs. He doesn't speak. He doesn't walk. He's in a wheelchair. He's been diapered and fed as an infant his entire life. So for 3.5, almost 4 decades, I've been working to serve this young man that has become my hero. And I learned through my own brokenness that brokenness is not broken. It just needs healing to recover and live again. And that's the whole impotence of everything that I do. So God has been really good to me to drag me through some of these keyholes just because of what I've suffered and gone through. And hey, I'm here with you today. So I'm still alive. So you know what? Yeah. Life works.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's funny. I've got these verses for the day, and actually just reminded me of one that I saw. It was actually today's. Yeah. It says, "We never know the trials that await us in the days ahead. We may not be able to see the light through our struggles, but we believe that those days, as in life of Job, we the most significant we are called upon to live."
Amen.
Yep. Absolutely.
There's gold in that. And what you were just talking about on a personal front, stress was a huge part for me in my life. I used to work a 14-hour-a-day job, gone 360 days of the year in the oil and gas field, high stress environment, and ultimately had my monitor, and a young, healthy guy all of a sudden gets hit with and all those hard things in life. And I remember going to a doctor's visit, and they were like, and it was stress is what it was.
Yep.
And it was I'll never forget, the doctor looked and he said, "Do you realize, son, that stress can kill you?"
Yeah. It's the number one reason why people go into emergency rooms is stress. Whether you have constipation issues, migraines, headaches, heart palpitations, blood sugar issues. I mean, it is the number one issue why people have physical and emotional and psychological complaints. So it's real. And I think the power of that is understanding that stress is gravity. This is what I write about. It's in my first couple of chapters, that stress is gravity. It's not a bad thing. It's not positive or negative. It's neutral until we define it. So bad stress is anything I view as a threat. Good stress is what I view as a challenge. So the key is converting bad stress to good stress, or a threat to challenge that makes it work for you. And that is the conversion rate of what I train professional people what to do and how to do it.
Well, and I'm curious about that, because aren't even aware that they have stress in their daily lives. And maybe it's they're not self-aware enough. Maybe they're just too busy to even recognize the stresses. Is there any sort of indication, alarm bells, if you will, that people can look for in our viewership? They might not know. I know we've got some really diverse audience members.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, typically in psychology, we learn, from the pharma world as well as the psychological training world, anything that disrupts normal activity for 6 months or more becomes a huge issue or potential issue. So if all of a sudden you're not sleeping well, you're having nightmares, daymares, which is PTSD, we'll talk a little bit more about. You see a shift in your weight, your weight management, your dietary habits, your energy levels, uh, periods of depression, sadness. There's a lot of symptoms that can start showing us there's probably something not right. However, most of us just keep pushing through it, which is okay. But again, if you start seeing a few months of something that's a reoccurring issue that will not go away, seek help, because it's okay to seek help. I need a lot of help. You know what I mean? So look, you're only as weak and dark as your own secrets. So you got to come out and you got to talk about it.
I love that, and I love that it's an open forum of discussion. And I had mentioned to you before the show and for our viewership, in the spirit of sharing, I lost a close friend of mine, not yesterday, but the day before, and where grief happens is you cannot compare somebody's tragedy to another tragedy. I think they're all independent, and I think you have to really be self-aware enough to not compartmentalize or minimize people's feelings, because something so small to somebody could be the end of the world for another. And I think that's
absolutely right. Yes.
But to that, Dr. Lyles, you actually mentioned something just a second ago about identification. And I know I've ran into a list, like a checklist that you can actually check and score your level of stress. Are you, is there a term for that, or is there a resource that people can kind of maybe fill it out okay.
Yeah, it's actually it's a very basic 20 question survey. It's actually in the book, Performance Under Pressure. They can download all that on my website as well. So it's really simple, but it's interesting because, I've done this thousands of times like this and in person. And in typical settings, about 70% of the people are on the low end of the spectrum, and they think they're really better than they are until you monitor mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically in those quadrants, which are like 4 wheels on your car. And as I say, look, you don't have to have 4 flats to have a bad day. You only need 1 flat, and you're pulling off the side of the road. So whether it's a mental day, an emotional day, a spiritual day, a physical day, can change your day and change your world. So it's identifying that. And when people look at that survey and get their results, they're not shocked, but a lot of them are very surprised. They're like, wow, I thought I would have scored better than that. And then the book goes through how do you increase that score? And it's very didactic, and it's really pretty simple. Believe it or not, I hate to tell you that, because people go like, well, then I'll figure it out. Well, listen, we all know what to do. We just don't always do what we know.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. And it kind of froze up for a second, but I hear a little bit of lull. But what Dr. Lyles had just mentioned was a resource actually in his own book. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys a link later on that you guys can click on from our pages and go straight to Dr. Lyles' site. Go ahead and get a copy of his book. Highly, highly recommend it. Just existing causes stress. So I think this is something that everybody could use a copy of.
Well, and
absolutely.
What's interesting, guys, is that, I say this to people, and it's not tongue in cheek, it's reality. If we didn't have stress, we would die. We're designed for stress.
Right. But it's how you cope with that stress and how you come through at the other side is going to dictate, whether you're going to be able to deal with that stress again or whatever,
Right.
Yeah. And then I think that's what we need is the tools and the resources, because a lot of people don't even realize that they're under stress. Just like you said, Dr. Lyles, I can get through this. I can get through this. But if you have an avenue that people can go through, your book, for instance, that they could read and understand, hey, man, today I thought was pretty good, but I didn't realize that I had a little bit of stress going on there.
Yeah. And that's the gravity. And, I shared with you guys a little earlier, I love racing. I grew up in Indianapolis, right outside of Speedway, Indiana. And, I've trained like 40 drivers in IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One, sports car, NHRA. I mean, I love rubber, fuel burning. I mean, we sponsor an IndyCar team. I mean, we're all in, So it's interesting that, to tell a race car driver or a fighter pilot to slow down because it's a little stressful is ridiculous. You're in the wrong business. Get out of the machine.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So it becomes a mindset of training that I want to get as close to the wall at Indy this weekend as I possibly can without hitting the wall, and then back it off just a little, because the edge of out of control is fast, and fast means winning. So when people understand that stress is not your problem, you have to seatbelt, put airbags in, put shock absorbers on, put the proper fuel in, contain the fuel so it doesn't leak. When you do all those protocols, you can actually go to victory lane for your day.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because that releases a lot of the stress that you have. You've already got one job, and that's to win the race. You may have your spotter up there and your crew chief in your ear, which is actually adds to it.
Yes.
You need their help, but yet you might be in the middle of a turn or something, and here the spotter's telling you that you got, a driver on your heels. Then that's just added to it. But like you said, that's part of the game, and it's how you realize that it's almost like a protected stress, as like you said, as far as all the safety measures that we have in these vehicles nowadays.
Yeah, and another analogy I utilize, just in general trainings like this, is there's a difference between isolation and insulation. Isolation is I'm afraid for the exposure of stress because it could kill me. It could make me sick. I could be penetrable, whatever. Insulation is I put on a fire suit. I put on a mask. I put on a helmet. I put a seatbelt on, and I go out and I kill it. I go out and just run the ragged edge because I've done like a fire rescue operative, like a police operative.
Right.
You put your armor on, you put your ammo on, and you run into harm's way, trusting your training, not listening to the fear, because the fear is squelched by great training. So I spent my career doing the training.
Correct. And to our viewership, you missed out on the first part. I'm a younger guy, so I like comedies and feel good movies. And I had mentioned to Dr. Lyles here the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. And he laughed. And he's like, "No, that's actually right." He's like, that ties back in. I thought our viewership would get a giggle out of that. But you had first talked about as well the physical response, and that we actually need stress in life. Our basic biological instinct.
Well, I mean, stress is gravity. So think about if we live on Earth and we lost gravity right now, we'd float up. We'd probably hit the ceiling. We'd try to go outside. We'd go up into space, and we would die because of lack of oxygen and friendship. So, it's a real problem. We need gravity to hold us down. Gravity is not our problem. Gravity actually secures us to the planet Earth that we talk about. It's a gravitational pull. So whether you're a fighter pilot, whether you're a stay-home mom, whether you're a student trying to do your final exams before the end of the school year, you have to understand training eliminates something we don't understand like fear and convert it to a challenge. And if you do that, that's what greatness is about. Look, everybody has fear. It's where do you put it? And so if you have fear on one continuum, 180 degrees from fear is courage. We're not born courageous. We're born fearful. And if you convert fear to courage, which is threat, challenge, bad stress, good stress, you can run into that building and you can save people's lives. That's what and we all have that capacity. I don't want to say we're not special people because we're all special, but training makes us more special because I'm not afraid of that. I'm going to go attack it because I know why.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And Dr. Lyles, kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying there, you had mentioned earlier putting on the armor, and
Yep.
to our viewership, I know we kind of grazed over, but before we actually started the broadcast, we talked about the importance of what's going on right now. Specifically, Dr. Lyles, I'm actually here in Texas. I didn't get to mention that to you earlier, but as I'm sure everybody's aware, we had a very, I would say, a national and a world tragedy this past week. That people are having a really hard time processing what's going on. And Dr. Lyles, I know you want to speak on that, and that's something that you're an expert in that field, and I think your advice and your expertise on the subject.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's a tragedy, obviously, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the 21 victims that their lives were taken short, and the families and the community that's grieving. They're in Texas. We've had it here. I live in South Florida. The Parkland shooting took place, which is 20 minutes from our house. I don't care where you're at. It's devastating. The biggest challenge is, how do you get your head around something you can't really understand? Because someone walks into a school and shoots a school up. It's all about recovery at that point. I mean, we could get into this person's mind, but they're gone, and it doesn't really matter, because there's a level of evil that's out there in the world, that from playing video games to self-inflicted issues to narcissism, and people act out. Look, we can't make the world utopia, but we have to navigate that. And, I have a 9-year-old son. I made my own grandchild, so that's a whole nother show you'd have to have me back on. But I've been married 10 years. I got a 9-year-old son with adult children, and we had to send him to his elementary school after the shooting. So I'm talking to my 9-year-old about, hey, look, you're going to see extra security. You're probably going to see things that you didn't see before today. It's okay, because you're safe. That's why you go through training at school. That's why there's active shooter trainings in your school. That's why there's police operatives there. You have a smartwatch on. If something happens, you text us, you email you, and believe me, I will be there in about 3 minutes, because I live that close to the school. And he's like, all right, cool. It's recovery.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to recover and create a new normalcy after tragedy happens. But obviously, the closer you are to the epicenter of a disaster that impacts you, the deeper the stress is going to be.
Yeah,
Absolutely right. I agree with that 100%.
So out of curiosity for you, because too, I see a lot of people in my feed, and we're gonna avoid politics, anything of that nature. This is
Sure.
about stress.
Yep.
Is what we want to focus on our conversation. But with that said, I do see a lot of anger on my feeds. I won't get into specific issues, but how do you approach somebody like that? That maybe it might fall on deaf ears, or maybe they're acting out of emotion.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I'm angry
not
too.
that it's a bad thing. Not that it's a bad thing. I just
No. Yeah, I'm angry too. I can't believe this even happens. I can't believe that could have been my son's school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but anger is an emotion. Okay. And part of what I train and teach is navigating emotions, just like navigating thoughts, concentration mentally, navigating emotional acuity, which you can change within 20 to 30 seconds by knowing how to run your physiology through breath control, which is what we do with military ops and with fighter pilots and race car drivers. I mean, if I can change your physiology in 30 seconds, that's less than a lap in most tracks. It's being able to get you back to a recovered space so you don't make a stupid decision, 90 seconds from now. So look, I'm angry as well. I mean, I get frustrated. I don't understand how something like that could take place. but it does. But my job is to transition my emotion to get back to 100%, that I can train other people that, look, this is an incident. This is not political. Everything's politicized. I don't care about the politics of it. Right, wrong, indifferent. Look, lives were lost. How do we not try to do this again? And there's a lot of reasons why. Most is not political. Okay. Most is just, societal and philosophical. But we have to do, I think, a better job in our society on saying, look, we have to train our young people that if you're being exposed to consistent overexposure to death, dying, threats, you're probably going to end up acting that out, blurring the line of fiction and reality. And we're seeing it happen more so than ever over the past 10 years. And that's a bit alarming. And that's not political. That's just what it is.
That's the facts.
That's the facts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. Yeah, we try to, and even people that are watching the media 24 hours a day, I had people that would come and say, hey, I'm stressed out. And I'd be like, so what happened? Well, it was a tragedy that took place. Okay, great. Did you know people? Nope. Were you there? Nope. Do you live there? Nope. What's wrong? I don't know. So why are you calling me? Well, I don't know. I see all this stuff on the news. How much do you watch the news? 24 hours a day. I can't turn it off. Hello? Okay, wait a minute. Look, I do news. And I'm saying, look, you got to eat. You got to go to the bathroom. You got to shower once in a while. This is like human hygiene. Come on, you got to take a break. If you're saturated with anything, it becomes overdosing.
Well, you bring up an interesting point there. You live in excess. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
Food, putting on the news, whatever it is. I feel as though we live in a culture, like you said earlier, where we love excess and we want excess. And sometimes we have to realize that we're not a computer, we're human, and that we can become desensitized to things. And the effect of having that TV on maybe 24 hours a day, it's like, there's bigger problems out there, but you should maybe focus or turn your attention on to your immediate, like having to go to the bathroom, you got to eat, drink, the news will be there.
Right.
If you've got time to watch the news 24 hours a day, then you've got time to get up and set your schedule, whether it's to have breakfast and get you something going on, your exercise, get your daily things done. And I hear a lot of people say this, oh yeah, I've just got the news on in the background just for noise. They don't realize that noise is going into their brain and it's staying there. Your brain will bring that back up later, especially if someone has a conversation, talking about the topic that was on the news. You may not have been paying attention. You just wanted to hear the noise, but you actually can be a part of that conversation because your brain recorded all of that.
Right.
To me, that's loading up undue stress that your life really don't need.
Well, and post-traumatic stress, we don't use the word disorder, I guess, anymore from the military side, but it's post-traumatic stress, whatever it is, whether it's a disorder, it's not, I'm not going to argue that, but it's post is dramatic and it's stress, right? So the trauma of something that took place. So if you got the news on all day, to your example, Bo, and you're listening to it all day, that is PTS. Because you could be in the grocery store and all of a sudden you hear something, you smell something, and all of a sudden this all comes back to you. And you're reliving the trauma because you were triggered, because it's loaded into our nervous system and our emotional acuity system. So anything can trigger it. I mean, listen, I've got my own issues. I can be on stage. I can be doing a podcast like that, talking, everything's cool, and something hits me and I have to like choke and breathe to not start weeping, because I got my own holes, because I've dug a lot of bodies and been a lot of weird places. You know what I mean? So that's trauma. It's how do we navigate that trauma? And you never get over a loss of a life or a loved one. You learn to live with the loss.
I love that, and you actually hit a point that I've seen work for a lot of different people. And it was breathing that you had mentioned. and the importance of that. Do you have any resources that you could guide, or I'm sure you cover some of this stuff?
Sure. Yeah, it's in all the chapters of the book. I have a complete chapter just on emotional acuity stress breathing, and it's what fighter pilots do for what they call a G breath, and it's understanding how to breathe. And basically, the Hebrew word is nashima, and it literally means to breathe and or inspire. And if you're biblical at all, or anybody out there is, when the Bible says in Genesis 2 that God breathed into the breath of life into Adam, he became a living soul. That's nashima. So he basically inspired him so much he just stood up. You see, so that's nashima. So breath inspires, and in sports psych we call it, either with oxygen or without oxygen. So it's either anaerobic or aerobic. Okay, anaerobic is without or enough oxygen. Aerobic is with enough oxygen. So as we breathe, we not only inspire our blood cells, our oxygen transport and transmission, but our souls. So when I train athletes and performers specifically, it is all about breath. Listen, guys, it's the first thing you do out of the womb. It's the last thing you do before the tomb. Breath is paramount to life.
Take a deep breath.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
And, and it's funny because people just don't realize that they don't know that they're not breathing correctly. And in my book, I share about a quadrant of, there's 4 quadrants of breath: high and low positive, high and low negative. And each of those quadrants has its own breath print. And you need to know where you're at before, after, during, this kind of a call, a meeting, a dinner, a transition, whatever it is. You need to know what breath energy control system you're in, and you can circumvent that if you have the knowledge to know that, hey, I'm in a high negative spot. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm fearful. All these things that are there. How do I transition to I'm pumped, I'm connected, I'm engaged? 2 breaths, 20 seconds. Okay. I can transition you.
Excellent. Excellent. I think the world needs to take a couple of breaths every now and again.
Yeah.
I do too. And you know what? While we're talking about all this stuff, and Dr. Lyles, firstly, I'd just like to say thank you for coming on the show. I can't tell you how much of a blessing it is to have you on the show. I know, Bo, I don't want to speak for you, but typically our show length is about 30 to 40 minutes. So we are limited on time, unfortunately, but just being able to talk with you, we've covered so much different stuff, and we've got a vast array of content. We want to say thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
And, we so value your time. Bo, I'd be curious, and Dr. Lyles, would it be okay if we took a moment of silence, or maybe just focused on breath and kind of honor, the victims and the families, and kind of use this as not just a 20-second, but maybe a 20-second would be appropriate. A moment of silence to
Absolutely
would be great.
Yep.
Does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go ahead and start the clock. Go ahead and start the clock right now. And we're back.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Yeah, there's a passage in the Bible that says, be still and know that I am God, and there's not enough stillness in our minds and our bodies and our societies. And part of what I train people to do is find stillness, which is reflection time, because the lack of stillness is the lack of reflection. Because if you have a body of water that's completely still, you can see the reflection from anything that's above it. If you throw a brick in that water, it ripples. Now you don't see the reflection. You only see the water rippling. So our minds and our bodies and our souls that are rippling need stillness to have reflection time. So thank you for doing that.
Wow, I love that. Absolutely love that. And Bo, is there anything that you wanted to add? I know we're getting ready to sign off.
Yes, we are. But you know what? We have not done and first of all, I want to thank everyone for jumping on the show. My gosh, they're just jumping on left and right. This is just awesome. It's a very, very important message that Dr. Lyles is trying to convey here to the people. As far as the stress and everything, it is manageable.
Mhm.
But in saying that, we want to do a giveaway. No? Okay. Well, then
We're going to hold
change
off on
places.
we're going to hold off on the giveaway, but I do want to
Yes.
say, we had mentioned earlier resources to our viewership. I know you guys are familiar with the America Salute You organization. I want to go ahead and give a special shout out to Sid Miller's office and America Salute You. They're partnering together to actually help provide meals to the families and the first responders there in Uvalde. And yeah, there's actually a picture. Yeah, you were on the USS Iowa.
That's it. Yeah, we were there
Yes.
live on the red carpet. That's my wife, my son, and you can see the backdrop there. It was a great concert, and please
Yeah.
tune in. It was such a great day and evening. Bob Oken, that started America Salute You. We go back years, and great individual, and just glad Tristan's involved and you guys are aboard. So that's my wife's clothing company. So she does all of our clothing gear for our race teams. We did it for them. We had swag bags for all the players, the musicians. It was a fun weekend, man. So really, everybody tune in to America Salute You this weekend for the concert and donate to help our veterans with post-traumatic stress and other issues.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, we again are just so honored to have you, Bo. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I do want to thank Dr. Lyles for coming on. Man, your
Sure.
message is just wonderful. It needs to get into the minds and the ears of everyone out there. And stress, PTS,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, it is manageable.
Yep.
You cannot. I'm telling you, from someone who suffers from PTS,
Yeah.
you can't manage this on your own.
Right.
You've got to go find the people that know how to help you. And I'm going to be honest with you, people. If you don't, that's on you, because
Yeah.
the help is there. The resources are there. You just, instead of getting on social media and looking at what people ate for dinner, let's get on
Right.
social media and get educated about stress and PTS and find ways to how we can control this and help the world.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah. And talking about resources on my website, guys, terrylyles.com, TerryLYLES.com. We have a free giveaway for just the shooter situation specifically, as well as hurricanes. It's called, the one we're using now that we have on the site is called Caught in the Crossfire. So we use it for any kind of shooting, actor shooting incidences. It's a 35-page manual. It's absolutely free. It's a PDF download. You can send it to everybody you know in the world. That's why we do it. So please,
And that's a must get. If it's there and it's free, no one has an excuse as to why they don't have this material in front of them.
Yeah. And if you want more information, you can get the book. It goes into more detail. But those pieces of information are about surviving tragedy and knowing how to recover correctly.
Correct. And to our viewership audience, Dr. Lyles had just mentioned his book. We're going to give you links to his website. We're going to give you links to his books. We're actually going to be doing a giveaway on our Facebook page. So be sure while you watch this, you're up to date with what's going on in Bo and I's page so that you can get a copy of that. But take the time to read, kind of like what Bo said just a minute ago. If it's a free resource and it's there, challenge yourself to maybe not get involved in worrying about what somebody's eating for dinner, and maybe read that and use it as a tool to maybe not only help yourself, but help somebody else in this time of crisis.
Absolutely.
So,
think about it.
Especially if you're a family, and a lot of people don't realize this. Our children are constantly underneath stress, especially with school and homework and what they've got going on. So I would think that if a parent or parents would read this, it would actually help their children as well.
Yes,
them the
well,
tools that
it
they need.
does. I even address that in the manuals. So, like Bo had said earlier, I mean, look, if we had to buy oxygen, I mean, how long would you live?
Right.
It's free. We're giving it away. Oxygen's free, man. Come on, do something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, with that said, Dr. Lyles, is there anything that you'd like to add or say
No, that's it, man.
right before we get ready to? Okay.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Support America salutes you, especially this weekend, and get involved with us. And if I can help anybody, please send the feeds through, and we'll send out. And just love what you guys are doing. It's what I do. Not everything we do makes money. Doesn't matter. We make money in all kinds of places. It's about saving people's lives. So thank you for the opportunity today.
Absolutely. And thank you for coming on. I know our guests appreciate it. And for our
Yes.
viewership, one last thing. You just mentioned Bob Oken just a little bit ago. Be sure to tune into. So actually who we're talking to. Bob was actually a guest on the show. You're going to want to watch this episode all the way through. So if you're tagging in and out, go to the very beginning, watch it. And please click on those resources. Bo, I'm going to let you sign off. And again, Dr. Lyles, thanks for having us.
Yes, Dr. Lyles, thank you so much for that education. It's out there. It's free. People, you have no reason not to go get this free information and help yourselves and help the loved ones around you. With that, we are going to take, I believe, a short break, and then we're going to come back with our next show. So you people, go get you something to eat, get you something to drink, get online, get this book, and we'll see you guys in just a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Dr. Lyles, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.